Chapter 71 Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Grandpa. Grandpa. Big brother's awake. The little girl burst out of the thatched hut, yelling at an old man. She couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, with a sweet, round face, dark eyes, and a cute little smile. 2 short pigtails bounced as she ran. Seeing her rush over, the old man called out, "Xiao Yuer, slow down. You'll trip." He'd been tending a small vegetable patch, but he dropped his hoe to hurry towards her, telling her to take it easy. She finally reached him, breathless, and grabbed his hand. "Grandpa, big brother's awake," she blurted out. He patted her head. All right, Yuer. No need to get so worked up. Let's go see him now." Together, they headed towards the hut. Inside, Lin Yi had just opened his eyes. Everything was unfamiliar, surrounded by thatched walls. Where was he? He remembered leaping off the cliff, feeling a sword coming at him. He'd barely dodged it, diving into the pool. He didn't dare surface, worried Chu Miaoyin might jump in after him. He'd swum as fast as he could downstream, not stopping until he was far, far away. He never saw her following, and finally, his nerves started to calm down. Only then did he realize how exhausted he was. Before he could react, he blacked out, and now he was here, waking up with no clue how he got there. As he was thinking, the old man and the little girl came in. She peeked shyly from behind him, eyes wide with curiosity. The old man approached the bedside. "Young man, you're awake. How are you feeling?" he asked, concerned. His clothes were old and patched, but clean and neatly kept. Lin Yi figured the old man must have saved him. "I'm all right, sir," he replied. He was telling the truth. He'd only passed out from exhaustion and stress. His body was recovering, but his spiritual energy was practically non-existent. The spiritual energy in this world was so scarce. It would take forever to replenish his dantian. He felt a pang of longing for the world of cultivators, and then despair at not finding Chu Miaoyin, his only clue gone. "Sir, my name is Lin Yi." "Did you save me?" The old man replied. "Then I'll call you Lin." "My name is Chen, just call me Mr. Chen." Lin Yi nodded and waited for him to continue. "Actually," Mr. Chen said, "it was my granddaughter, Xiao Yuer, who found you." He gently pulled her out from behind him. She covered her face with her hands, peeking at Lin Yi through her fingers. "We were picking wild berries in the mountains." Yuer, being playful, ran off to play by the stream. Hearing her grandfather call her playful in front of a stranger, she tugged on his hand. "Grandpa, I'm not playful," she insisted. "Am I, Grandpa? Am I?" Mr. Chen chuckled. Yes, my Yuer is the most obedient and hardworking girl." She jumped up and down, happy with his answer. "She found you lying on the bank. She told me you were breathing, but she couldn't wake you up. We stayed there for a long time, but you didn't come to. It was getting late, and I didn't want to leave you there alone, so we brought you back here. You've been unconscious for half a month." Realizing Lin Yi hadn't eaten in all that time, the old man asked, "You must be hungry now. I'll get you something to eat." He turned to leave, but Lin Yi quickly got out of bed and stopped him. "Mr. Chen, don't trouble yourself. I'm not hungry." Since reaching the Qi training stage, he could go months without food. He figured the higher his cultivation, the less he'd need to eat. He bowed to Mr. Chen. "Thank you for saving my life, sir." Mr. Chen helped him up. "It was nothing, just lending a hand." Lin Yi looked at the little girl. "Xiao Yuer, thank you for saving me too." She waved her hands, embarrassed. "It wasn't me, Grandpa brought you back." Lin Yi smiled at the cute little girl and reached into his pockets. Realizing he wasn't wearing his original clothes, Mr. Chen explained, "Your clothes were soaked. I changed you into these to keep you from catching a cold. I washed and dried your clothes, I'll go get them." He left the hut and returned with a neatly folded set of clothes. "Here, put these on." Here are the things that were in your pockets, make sure everything is there. Lin Yi immediately noticed the 2 storage bags. He hadn't even had a chance to check them since he got them. Now, he was eager to see what was inside. Lin Yi took the clothes, and said, "Thank you, Mr. Chen," that he was a kind and good-hearted man, untouched by the world's schemes. "You're welcome, Lin. Why don't you change? Yue and I will wait outside." Lin Yi said, "I'll change later. I need to ask, where exactly am I?" That it was important to know where he'd ended up, Mr. Chen replied, "This is the eastern edge of the Hugong Mountains. Our village is right on the border. There are only 7 families here. The nearest town is 600 or 700 miles away. It's hard for people to get there, so we're pretty isolated. There's no farmland here, so we make a living by hunting." Mr. Chen continued. Chapter 72 Storage Bag. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I learned the direction from old Chen. Turns out, I'd followed the river east to the edge of the Hugong Mountains. Ever since leaving the sect, I've been heading east, but it felt like a never-ending journey. The mortal world is vast, let alone the world of cultivators. I can only imagine how grand it must be. After getting my bearings and chatting with Chen Lao, he and Xiao Yue went outside. I sat cross-legged on the bed, planning my next move. After a year of chasing leads, the trail had gone cold. I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. Who knows when the next clue will surface? For now, I need to rest and recover, then keep moving east. I glanced at the 2 storage bags on the bed, the ones I took from Chao Duan's senior brother Fang. I hadn't had a chance to open them. I was curious about what these cultivator storage bags were like inside. I picked one up, but how did you even open it? It looked like a bag, but there were no openings at all. I held it, examined it, turning it over and over, completely clueless. Then I thought about the purple sun sword. Did I need to offer a blood sacrifice to unlock it? I summoned the sword, sliced my finger, and let a drop of blood fall onto the bag, waiting to see what would happen. 1 minute, 2 minutes, half an hour went by, but nothing changed. Maybe it needed more blood. I cut my finger again and dripped several more drops onto the bag, still nothing. Apparently, opening it with blood wasn't an option. Maybe it didn't need to be opened at all. Lost in thought, I remembered my spiritual sense. Why not try that? I focused my spiritual sense on the bag. As soon as they connected, I saw something different. A tiny hole, invisible to the naked eye, was now clear as day. The hole seemed to be sealed with a mesh-like barrier made of countless, tangled lines. I tried to use my spiritual sense to push through the mesh, but it was immediately blocked and bounced back. Even though I failed, I'd found a way. I gradually increased the intensity of my spiritual sense. It seemed to be working. With each collision, the lines at the opening weakened, showing signs of breaking. I was about to give it my all when a sudden wave of exhaustion washed over me, and I nearly collapsed. I'd been so focused on the bag that I hadn't noticed how much spiritual energy I was using, so close, yet so far. It was frustrating. I just hoped the mesh didn't have some kind of regeneration ability, or I'd be back to square one. With no other choice, I rested for a bit until the throbbing in my head subsided. Then I changed clothes and stepped outside. Xiao Yue was playing with a little rabbit. It was pure white, adorable. Her laughter, like tinkling bells, filled the air. It was the carefree joy of a child. Chen Lao, who was preparing dinner, saw me and said, "Xiao Lin, why are you up? You just recovered. You should be resting." "I'm fine, Chen Lao," I said. "Just needed some air." He studied my face, and seeing that I looked okay, nodded. "Just take it easy," he said. "Dinner will be ready soon." Xiao Yue heard us talking and ran over, holding the rabbit. With a bright smile, she said, "Brother, do you think my Xiao Bai is pretty?" That she held the rabbit out for me to see. I ruffled her hair. "Xiao Bai is beautiful. The prettiest rabbit I've ever seen. As beautiful and cute as you, Xiao Yue." I reached out to touch the rabbit, but it squirmed, trying to escape into Xiao Yue's arms. It was afraid of strangers. My hand froze in mid-air, then I pulled it back. Xiao Yuer comforted the rabbit. Xiao Bai, don't be afraid. Brother is nice. He won't hurt you. The rabbit calmed down a bit, but still wouldn't let me touch it. Xiao Yuer stayed by my side, chattering away. She seemed to have endless stories, especially about how she'd found Xiao Bai, who had an injured leg. She'd brought it home and nursed it back to health. The rabbit hadn't left since and had become her best friend. Then we heard Chen Lao's voice. Xiao Lin, Xiao Yuer, dinner's ready. Come and eat. Okay, Chen Lao, I replied. I took Xiao Yuer's hand, and as we approached the table, she jumped up excitedly. Grandpa, we're having meat again today. It smells so good. Chen Lao looked at her with affection. Xiao Yuer will have to eat a lot. She hadn't had meat in a long time. If it weren't for having a guest, Chen Lao wouldn't have used the last piece. He'd been saving it for a special occasion. I didn't know any of this, but Xiao Yuer's words made me uneasy. This village lived by hunting, why wouldn't they have meat to eat? I had my suspicions, but I didn't ask. Xiao Yuer sat down and waited impatiently for her grandfather to start. She stared at him, eager to begin. Chen Lao said, Xiao Lin, I'm just a simple farmer. I don't have much to offer, so please forgive me. This is wonderful, I said. You've made a feast. Thank you, Chen Lao. Xiao Lin, dig in. Don't just sit there. Then, turning to Xiao Yuer, he said, eat up, Xiao Yuer. As soon as she heard her grandpa say it was time to eat, she grabbed a piece of meat and put it in her bowl, her mouth practically watering. She popped it in her mouth and savored it, completely lost in the moment. It was as if it were the most delicious dish in the world. Chen Lao was happy to see her so delighted, but it also broke his heart a little. He kept urging me, Xiao Lin, don't be shy. Eat more. You haven't had a proper meal in weeks. And he kept putting more meat in my bowl. Chapter 73 Hunting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The countryside at night is so peaceful, a welcome contrast to the hustle and bustle of the towns. The lights are on, and the flowers are blooming. Every now and then, I hear the roar of wild animals coming from the Hugong Mountains. Folks around here lock up tight at night, just in case. Usually, the critters stay up in the hills, but you never know. Right now, Lin Yi's sitting cross-legged on the bed. After dinner, he had a chat with Mr. Chen and learned that Xiao Yuer's dad was killed by some wild animal on a hunting trip. Her mom, heartbroken by the loss, passed away from grief soon after. Xiao Yuer was just a baby back then and doesn't even remember her parents. But as she got older, seeing the other kids with their moms and dads, she'd ask Mr. Chen, where's my mom and dad? Why don't they come see me? All Mr. Chen could say was they were traveling far away and wouldn't be back for a long time. Without Xiao Yuer's father to help, life's been tough for Mr. Chen. He's getting old himself and can't hunt anymore. Sometimes, the neighbors share meat, but they're not exactly rolling in it either. It's a rare treat, maybe once a year. As Xiao Yuer grows up, meat is even less common. That's why she reacted like she did today. Lin Yi really feels for Mr. Chen and his family, and he admires the old man's character. Even though he's struggling, he's never lost his kindness. Thinking back to his own childhood, even though it was a poor and simple village, at least they were self-sufficient, and his family was happy. He wonders how his parents are doing these days. Since he joined the sect, he hasn't seen them. They didn't want to make things harder for him. He chose the path of immortality, a lonely road where nobody can tag along. Pulling himself back to the present, he realizes it's been a while since he meditated at night. He focuses, and even though the spiritual energy is weak, it's better than nothing. Every little bit helps. As he runs the Wu Wei Ju Qi training technique, wisps of spiritual energy gather around him, seeping through his pores and into his meridians. They flow through his body, finally collecting in his dantian. The dantian, which had been dried up, starts to come alive as it fills with spiritual energy. The Ziyang sword inside is practically buzzing with joy, but the spiritual energy in the air is too thin. Soon, there's nothing left to absorb. Luckily, this place is on the edge of the mountains. The spiritual energy up there is stronger and will slowly drift down to refill the space, unable to absorb any more. Lin Yi focuses inward, circulating the spiritual energy from his dantian back through his meridians, nourishing and strengthening them. A breakthrough is dangerous if your meridians aren't up to par. If it hadn't been for those mysterious beads last time, he might not have made it. As the spiritual energy flows through his meridians and dantian, Lin Yi glances at the mysterious bead, but it's still the same as always, spinning deep in his mind, seeing nothing new. He puts all his energy back into cultivating. Time slips by unnoticed. Before he knows it, the sun is rising in the east, and everything is waking up to the morning light. The sound of Xiao Yuer's laughter drifts in from outside the house. She knocks on the door. Big brother, wake up. The sun's shining. She knocks for a while, but there's no answer. She pushes the door open and finds the room empty. Lin Yi is nowhere to be seen. She runs outside, worried. Grandpa. Big brother's gone. Mr. Chen hurries over and checks the room with her. The blankets are neatly folded, but there's no sign of Lin Yi. Grandpa, do you know where he is? She looks at Mr. Chen, her eyes filled with sadness. He picks her up and tries to reassure her. Don't worry, Xiao Yuer. He probably just went out for a bit and will be back later. After all, Lin Yi was just passing through and would leave sooner or later. He just didn't expect it to be like this, Mr. Chen thought. Xiao Yuer snuggles into his arms. Really, Grandpa? Is he really coming back? Mr. Chen smiles. I promise. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the woods, dragging 2 wild boars. Each one weighs over 400 pounds. The hogs are tied up tight and squealing their heads off. It's Lin Yi. Ever since he heard about Mr. Chen's situation, he wanted to find a way to repay him and help him make a living. After his cultivation, he went out early to hunt and came across these 2. He drags the boars toward the village. The squealing of the boars carries through the air, and villagers come running. Mr. Chen hadn't told anyone about Lin Yi. Now, they see a young man dragging 2 enormous wild boars toward them. A woman pokes the man next to her. Hey, who's that guy? The man winces. Honey, I've told you 1,000,000 times, use your words, not your hands. That hurts. He rubs his arm. Besides, I've never seen him before. How would I know? She glares at him. You're asking for it, Guzzi. If you ever amounted to anything, I'd treat you like a king. But look at you. Every time you go hunting, you come back empty-handed. Look at me. I haven't had meat in so long. I'm turning into an old hag before my time. I must have been cursed in a past life to marry you and live like this, always hungry and broke. I'd be better off dead and done with it. She goes on and on, scolding him. The man stands there, not daring to move, thinking, why do I always say too much? The neighbors are used to it, but they still watch with amusement. It breaks up the monotony of daily life and gives everyone something to gossip about. But soon, they all turn their attention to Lin Yi, or rather, to the wild boars. 2 boars this size could set a family up for months. Adults and children quickly surround Lin Yi, about 30 people in total. A kid shouts, those are huge. Chapter 74 Sensation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Yi was swarmed by villagers, all wanting to know more about him, blocking his path. Kids buzzed around the wild boar, eager for a closer look, but the boar's angry grunts kept them at bay. The wild boar, spooked by the crowd, thrashed around, even though it was tied up, screaming. The kids scattered. Hey, who are you, young man? Did you catch those boars? Are you single? What do you think of my daughter? She's the prettiest girl in town. Hold on, Aunt Wang. What's that supposed to mean? My Tsuetsue is way prettier than your osmanthus. She turned to the crowd. Right, everyone? That's right. The crowd agreed. Aunt Lu beamed, shooting a triumphant look at Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang bristled. If you're so sure, let's have Tsuetsue come out here and settle this. Bring it on. Aunt Lu shot back. We're not afraid of anyone. The commotion was deafening. Meanwhile, others were still peppering Lin Yi with questions, leaving him overwhelmed. He wanted to get away but was trapped. He finally shouted, "Folks, my name's Lin Yi, and I'm staying with Old Man Chen. I need to get these hogs over there, so please clear the way." That the crowd parted, muttering amongst themselves. Old Man Chen. I didn't know he had any relatives. We all know his situation. Yeah, not since Chen Shilin died has anyone come around. The gossip started up again, and many people continued to follow Lin Yi. The kids, especially, couldn't get enough of the wild boars. They trailed behind, circling the animals. Some of the braver ones even reached out to touch them. The short trip to Old Man Chen's place took over 10 minutes because of the crowd. Before Lin Yi could even knock, the villagers were yelling, "Old Man Chen! Your relatives brought you a wild boar." Old Man Chen had heard the ruckus at the edge of town but hadn't joined the crowd. But as it got closer, he started to worry. When he heard the villagers shout about his relatives, he was totally confused. He didn't know what to make of it. He quickly opened the door and was met with a huge crowd. Lin Yi and the wild boars were hard to miss. "Xiao Lin, where've you been? I didn't see you this morning." Before Old Man Chen could finish, a little girl leaped into Lin Yi's arms. She looked up at him, pouting. "Big brother, I thought you left me." That it was Xiao Yuer. She'd been sad since Lin Yi disappeared. Seeing him now, she instantly perked up. Lin Yi set down the rope, picked up Xiao Yuer, and tickled her nose. "How could I leave you, Xiao Yu? I went to hunt wild boars for you. Look, aren't they big?" Xiao Yuer looked where Lin Yi was pointing and saw the two massive beasts on the ground, still squealing. She was immediately fascinated and wiggled in Lin Yi's arms, wanting to get down. Lin Yi put her down, and she cautiously approached the wild boars. Glancing back at Lin Yi took her hand and said, "Come on, there's nothing to be afraid of." Standing next to the boar, Lin Yi squatted down and patted it. The boar froze, remembering what had happened earlier. "This guy was scary," Lin Yi told Xiao Yuer. "See? They're behaving themselves." Seeing Lin Yi pat the boar without it moving, Xiao Yuer got braver and patted it too. Sure enough, it stayed still. She squealed with delight. "Brother, it's not moving." Then, she jumped right onto the boar's back and started riding it. The other kids were jealous and wanted a turn. Some of the bolder ones tried to copy her, but the wild boar's squeal scared them off. Xiao Yuer was startled and fell, but Lin Yi caught her. She was a little mad. As soon as she was steady, she kicked the boar and grumbled, "You almost hurt me." Lin Yi couldn't help but smile at her antics. He turned to Old Man Chen. "I went out early this morning. I saw you were still asleep, so I didn't want to wake you." Old Man Chen waved his hand. That's fine. But you shouldn't go hunting alone. It's too dangerous." "It's all right. I've hunted before. It's no big deal." "Where did you find those boars?" Lin Yi asked. Old Man Chen, seeing the two massive hogs, was flustered. He didn't know what to say. "Maybe we should put them in the yard." Lin Yi nodded. Old Man Chen started to help bring them in, but Lin Yi said, "I got it." He picked up the rope and dragged the two wild boars into the yard by himself. Old Man Chen was about to follow when the villagers surrounded him. A skinny man asked, "Old Chen, who is that relative of yours? I've never seen him before." "Yeah, who is he?" The others echoed. Old Man Chen didn't know how to answer. "He's a distant relative. He's come to visit me and Yuer for a couple days." Aunt Lu pushed forward. "Old Chen, where's he from? Is he married?" Old Man Chen knew Aunt Lu was trouble. "Sister Lu, Xiaolin's from way out of town. You probably wouldn't know it. And as for whether he's married, well, I haven't had contact with relatives in years. I honestly don't know." Aunt Lu's eyes lit up. As long as he wasn't married yet, there was still hope. She couldn't let a catch like that get away. She grabbed Old Man Chen's arm. "Old Chen, you know my Tsuetsue. She's pretty, got a good figure, and she's a hard worker, smart, and polite. Put in a good word for Tsuetsue with your nephew. If things work out, we'll be family. You think we'd treat you and Yuer badly? Chapter 75. Mr. Chen is confused. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, I'll let you know as soon as I can. Mr. Chen brushed them off. He knew better than anyone what Suetsue was really like. Sure, she was pretty, but she had her mother's lazy streak, and good manners. Forget about it. What was so great about her anyway? Just as he turned toward the yard, someone else grabbed his arm. Old Chen, you can't play favorites. My Hohat's a hard worker and a good girl. Mr. Chen saw another pain in the neck and quickly said, yeah, but it's not a good time right now. How about we talk another day? He finally shook off Aunt Wang. He hurried into the yard, slamming the door shut behind him to get some peace and quiet. Ever since Lin Yi had been nourished by spiritual energy, he'd become a real looker, with handsome features. Plus, he could hunt, which made all the women in the village even more eager to marry their daughters off to him. Lin Yi didn't care about any of that. He was too busy figuring out what to do with these two wild boars. He couldn't just leave them tied up. Seeing Mr. Chen come in, he asked, Mr. Chen, what's the best way to handle these hogs? Mr. Chen was still frazzled from the earlier commotion and couldn't think straight. Seeing that Mr. Chen was drawing a blank, Lin Yi shared his idea. Old Chen, he said, how about this? They look like a breeding pair. We could raise them and they could have piglets. We'd have meat, give some to the neighbors, maybe trade for stuff. What do you think? Mr. Chen perked up. Xiao Lin, that's a great idea. Let's do it. He slapped his thigh for emphasis, then he asked, puzzled, Xiao Lin, how did you catch them all by yourself? Usually, that'd be impossible for one guy. Lin Yi couldn't tell the truth, so he made up a story. I found them resting. Knowing about herbs, I found one that stuns them. While they were out cold, I tied them up. I got lucky today. Not only did I find the boars, but I actually found that herb. Otherwise, I'd have just been staring. The truth was, the big boar was in the middle of doing his thing when Lin Yi interrupted. Naturally, the boar was ticked off and attacked. Too bad for him, he was no match for Lin Yi. He was down and out in seconds. Seeing the boar go down, the sow tried to make a run for it, but Lin Yi caught her, too. And that's how the unlucky wild boars got tied up and dragged home. Mr. Chen listened to Lin Yi's story, sounding halfway convinced. He still had his doubts, but he didn't press it. The boar was caught, and that's what mattered. Since the wild boar was dragged into the yard, Xiao Yuer had been happily playing with it, but the wild boar didn't dare to move. The wild boar seemed to know that the little girl couldn't move, otherwise this human will not know how to deal with it, but the result is definitely not good. He could only let the little one jump up and down on his body, which was very frustrating. Mr. Chen saw Xiao Yuer and said worriedly, My Xiao Yuer, this is very dangerous. What should you do if the wild boar hurts you? Grandpa, Piggy's being good. See? I can even pat his head. Xiao Yuer patted the wild boar's head. The wild boar could only endure it in frustration. Xiao Yuer smiled happily and said, Grandpa, look at it, Piggy is really well behaved. After saying that, Xiao Yuer jumped off the wild boar and ran into the house. Not knowing what she was doing, Mr. Chen was still a little worried. Wild boars are very aggressive and he was afraid of hurting Xiao Yuer. Lin Yi saw Mr. Chen's worry and said to Mr. Chen, don't worry, these two wild boars will not hurt Xiao Yuer. When Mr. Chen heard Lin Yi's words, he said hesitantly, but... The next words were not spoken, but Lin Yi knew what he wanted to say. Lin Yi promised, Mr. Chen, when Xiao Yuer plays around the wild boar in the future, I will accompany her and ensure that the wild boar will not hurt Xiao Yuer. Lin Yi cast an affirmative look at Mr. Chen to reassure him. Mr. Chen had no other choice but to say to Lin Yi, Xiao Lin, thank you for your hard work. Mr. Chen, please don't be polite to me. Xiao Yuer is like my sister. This is how it should be. While talking, Xiao Yuer came out with the little rabbit in her arms, and said, Xiao Bai, do you see, these two pigs will be our playmates from now on, and there will be more and more of them in the future. Partner. As he said this, he put the little rabbit on the wild boar's head. The little rabbit was so frightened that it kicked around, twisted its body, and wanted to run away in fright. Xiaoyue looked at the appearance of the little rabbit and started to tell Xiao Bai a lot of truths. Lin Yi on the side couldn't laugh or cry. This is the happiness of a child. Children should be like this, carefree and innocent. Since you want to keep wild boars in captivity, you must first build a fence, and it must be a very strong one, otherwise the wild boar can easily break free with its strength. If Mr. Chen were to handle this matter, it would definitely not work, but for Lin Yi, it was a piece of cake, based on the experience of raising pigs at home when he was a child. Lin Yi roughly knew how to design the most suitable pig pen. It only took Lin Yi half a day to build the pig pen, which was very strong. Originally, Mr. Chen was on the sidelines and looked at Lin Yi's working movements. He was shocked. Is this a normal human being? It is estimated that more than a dozen burly men cannot reach it. This was the result of Lin Yi deliberately slowing down, for fear of startling Mr. Chen, but he was still many times faster than an ordinary person, and he could easily pick up wood weighing several hundred kilograms. Although Mr. Chen wanted to help, he didn't know where to start. He didn't need to help at all, but it would hinder Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at the pig pen in front of him and was very satisfied. Even a bigger wild boar would never be able to escape after being imprisoned. He dragged the wild boar into the pig pen, untied the rope, patted the boar's head and said, "This will be your home from now on, and you can do whatever you want from now on. No one will ever disturb your beauty." The boar drooped his head, and it was useless not to accept it. The sow followed the boar. Lin Yi said again, "Create piglets early and you will be rewarded." After that, he walked out. "Brother, look at Xiao Bai and he's ignoring me." Xiao Yue said aggrievedly. The little rabbit was indeed frightened. No matter how Xiao Yue comforted him, he hid in a corner and shivered. Lin Yi was also surprised. Although the wild boar looked a bit scary, it shouldn't be so scary. Could it be something to do with its legs? Chapter 76. The pig is strong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Over the next few days, Lin Yi stopped meditating in the thatched hut every night. The spiritual energy there just wasn't replenishing fast enough. Instead, after Chen Lao fell asleep, he'd sneak off to the Hugong Mountains, where the energy was much richer. He'd hop from spot to spot as he depleted the local aura. After a few days of this, the spiritual energy in his dantian was a little better, but it'd still take ages to fill it completely. Plus, the Hugong Mountains didn't have enough to sustain Lin Yi's needs for long. Otherwise, he would have sucked the whole mountain dry, and he wasn't about to do that. He'd become a cultivator, and now he felt the weight of karma. He didn't want to risk some cosmic payback by completely draining the place. Even though his dantian wasn't ideal, Lin Yi's spiritual awareness had returned, seemingly out of nowhere. He figured it must be connected to those mysterious beads. There was no other explanation. This was a win. Lin Yi was itching to get his hands on those 2 storage bags. He decided to wait until night. After meditating, Lin Yi went hunting, like he'd been doing. Pheasants, ducks, rabbits, well, not rabbits. He learned his lesson there. The first day, he'd roasted a hare, and Xiao Yue had thrown a fit and ignored him all day. Xiao Bai was a rabbit, after all, so now he avoided rabbits, catching other game instead. Lin Yi's barbecue skills were a hit with Xiao Yue. She couldn't get enough, her face covered in grease every day. Carrying a pheasant, Lin Yi opened the gate and stepped into the yard, only to be met with a blur of motion. "Brother, more pheasant today? When do we eat?" Xiao Yue asked, practically bouncing with excitement. Lin Yi scooped up Xiao Yue. "Right now, if that's what Xiao Yue wants." Xiao Yue clapped her hands, drool practically forming, and squealed, "Yes. Big brother makes roast chicken." Her eyes sparkled with anticipation. As they passed the pig pen, she piped up, "Look, brother, Xiao Bai's playing with Zhuang Zhuang." Zhu Dazhuang was the boar. Lin Yi had named him Zhu Dazhuang a few days ago for convenience. The boar hadn't been thrilled, but he was stuck with it. Zhu Dazhuang was now humming and strolling around. He'd settled into life here pretty well. He got fed, and Mei Jiaonyang was close by. Xiao Bai, initially terrified, had become best buds with the boar. He would run into the pig pen and stand on the big pig to play. Lin Yi eyed the boar. "Zhu de Zhuang, you're living the good life. How's the task I gave you going?" Zhu Dazhuang perked up, greeted Lin Yi with a few snorts, then glanced at the sow, lifting his snout as if to say, "Piece of cake. Don't get cocky. If you fail, we'll see how I deal with you." Lin Yi warned. Zhu Dazhuang just gave him a worried look. Mr. Chen had been curious about Zhu Dazhuang's unusual intelligence, but he was starting to accept it. Lin Yi had found a pill in the booklet that could boost the wild boar's smarts. It took a ton of work in the Hugong Mountains to find the ingredients, and he only managed to make one pill, which he gave to Zhu Dazhuang. It was just a basic intelligence boost, but at least now it understood human speech. The sow wasn't so lucky, he didn't have enough ingredients. As Zhu Dazhuang gained intelligence, the sow only followed his lead. Seeing Lin Yi talking to Zhu Dazhuang, the little girl got impatient, pointing at Zhu Dazhuang and saying, "Zhu Dazhuang, go lie down over there." She was not happy. Zhu Dazhuang, not wanting to upset anyone, wagged his tail and plopped down. Xiao Yuer tugged on Lin Yi's hand. "Brother, roast chicken time," that her big eyes begged. Looking at her, he grinned. "Let's get started." "Yay!" Xiao Yuer jumped for joy. Same recipe, same amazing taste. The aroma nearly brought tears to the little girl's eyes. She could barely wait. Time crawled for the little girl. When it was finally done, she reached out and grabbed a chicken leg straight from the fire, chewing it eagerly before Lin Yi could even react. "Xiaoyer, slow down. You'll burn yourself." Seeing Xiao Yuer wolfing it down, Lin Yi cautioned her. Xiao Yuer mumbled, "Brother, you're not scared of burn." "So good," that she wiped her mouth, leaving a smear of grease. Lin Yi broke off a piece to take to Mr. Chen, but he wasn't around. "Mr. Chen. Barbecue time." He called out. No answer. He called again, still nothing. Xiao Yuer, mid-bite, piped up. Grandma Lu took Grandpa away. Since Mr. Chen wasn't there, Lin Yi dug in. Zhu Dazhuang watched, growing increasingly anxious as he realized Lin Yi wasn't planning to share. He let out a frustrated squeal. Lin Yi turned to look at Zhu Dazhuang, tossed him a piece of meat, and said, "What's your problem? Aren't pigs vegetarians? Why are you eating meat now?" Zhu Dazhuang happily chomped down the meat, then turned his butt to Lin Yi, as if to say, "Mind your own business." Soon, the roast chicken was gone. Xiao Yuer reached out habitually, only to find an empty rack. She looked at Lin Yi with an unsatisfied expression. "Brother, more pheasants soon. Not enough to eat." Lin Yi looked at Xiao Yuer, her mouth still glistening, and said, "Tomorrow. I'll get extras to make sure Xiao Yuer is full." Xiao Yuer walked over and hugged Lin Yi. "Brother, you're so nice. No one cared about me but Grandpa before." Xiao Yuer looked up at Lin Yi. "Brother, always be nice to Xiao Yuer. Never leave." Lin Yi ruffled her hair. "Xiao Yuer's so cute. Everyone will like her and treat her well." He was about to say something more when the door opened and Mr. Chen walked in, followed by several people. Chapter 77 No Way to Hide. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing the crew behind Mr. Chen made Lin Yi's head spin. It was Aunt Lu and Aunt Wang, back again, this time with two young women in tow. These two had been showing up every single day. Lin Yi had made his disinterest crystal clear, but they wouldn't take no for an answer. Now he just ducked and covered whenever he saw them coming. Mr. Chen was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He couldn't afford to offend the villagers. Aunt Lu had cornered him into coming along, and even though he knew what was up, he couldn't weasel out of it. He'd learned to play it smart, though, giving non-committal answers. Whatever they said, he'd just reply that he'd do his best to talk to Lin Yi, but it was all up to him. This time, Lin Yi was cornered, with nowhere to run. He had to face the music. Aunt Lu and Aunt Wang's eyes lit up when they spotted Lin Yi. Each grabbed the girl beside them and hustled towards him, elbowing each other in a race to be first. Aunt Lu won by a hair, reaching Lin Yi first. "Well, look who it is. Xiaolin, you're actually home today." With that, Aunt Lu shoved the girl she was holding in front of Lin Yi. Xiao Lin, take a look, this is my daughter, Tsue. She's a real looker, told you I wasn't lying. The woman called Tsue peeked at Lin Yi and then shyly lowered her head. Lin Yi opened his mouth to speak. Aunt Wang barged Aunt Lu out of the way, nearly sending her sprawling. Just as she was about to give Aunt Wang a piece of her mind, Chen Tsue stepped forward and blurted out, Mrs. Wang, are you blind or something? Can't you see I, Chen Tsue, am right here? Are you trying to start something? Aunt Lu, realizing the damage, quickly grabbed Chen Tsue, clamped a hand over her mouth, and frantically winked at her. Chen Tsue finally got the picture, inwardly panicking but still casting shy glances at Lin Yi. Aunt Wang, still clueless about who Chen Tsue was, thought they were trying to pull a fast one after gaining the upper hand. Little did she know, her true colors were now on full display. Aunt Wang shot a smug look at Aunt Lu, as if to say, see if you can keep up the act now that Xiao Lin knows what you're really like. Ha! My daughter's chances just skyrocketed. Aunt Lu just glared at Aunt Wang, saying nothing. Aunt Wang felt a surge of satisfaction, all the frustrations of the past few days washing away. Turning to Lin Yi, Aunt Wang said, Xiao Lin, Aunt Wang's back to see you. This is my daughter. She's been a good girl since the day she was born, a real sweetheart. Osmanthus, say hello to Xiaolin. Aunt Wang winked at her daughter. Osmanthus stepped forward and said to Lin Yi, Mr. Lin, please excuse my presence. Lin Yi nodded in response. Aunt Lu couldn't take it anymore. Xiao Lin, don't fall for their tricks. Osmanthus is sickly. Marry her, and you might as well throw your health away, and the family relationship will be cut off. You need to think clearly before you commit to it. Hearing this, Osmanthus covered her face and ran sobbing from the yard. Aunt Wang gave a half-hearted chase to the door, then turned back to confront Aunt Lu. Just as she was about to unleash a tirade, Aunt Lu was ready to fire back. Seeing the scene unfolding, Lin Yi knew this could go on forever, so he quickly stepped in to separate them. Aunt Lu, Aunt Wang, I appreciate the thought, really I do. But I just can't say yes. Your daughters are both wonderful, and I'm sure they'll find husbands who are a much better fit for them. Aunt Wang ignored the ongoing feud with Aunt Lu and eagerly said to Lin Yi, Xiao Lin, you're not married, and my daughter's not married. You two are a perfect match. Aunt Lu chimed in at the same time, nearly causing Lin Yi to choke on his spit. Xiao Lin, so we don't offend each other and make things difficult for you, I decided to let my daughter and Gui Hua marry you together. How about that? Aunt Wang was stunned for a moment, then exclaimed, yes, Xiao Lin, I agree with Aunt Lu's decision. A man with such outstanding ability deserves 3 wives and 4 concubines, the more the merrier. Lin Yi felt things were spiraling out of control. He needed to hit them with some tough love, or who knew what craziness would come next. Taking a deep breath, Lin Yi solemnly said to the two of them, Aunties, to be honest, I'm already engaged. I'm getting married as soon as I get back home. It's an arranged marriage, a powerful family. It's agreed by both sides that I will only marry her for the rest of my life. He paused. So I have to refuse your kind offers. It's not my decision, it's a matter between 2 families, and I can't go against it. Hearing this, their hopes plummeted. That kind of family was way out of their league. Aunt Lu forced a smile and said, Xiao Lin, I had no idea. Please excuse us. With that, she grabbed Chen Tsue's hand and headed for the door. The sounds of Aunt Lu scolding Chen Tsue drifted back. You stubborn girl, how many times have I told you, girls should be gentle, virtuous, knowledgeable, and courteous. Another voice retorted, Mom, I learned it all from you. If you're blaming someone, then blame yourself. You little brat, talking back now, are you? I'll beat you within an inch of your life. Ah, Mom, come and get me. If you can catch me, then you can beat me. You little devil, get back here. The voices faded away. Back in the courtyard, Aunt Wang gave Lin Yi an awkward smile, turned, and left without a word. Watching them go, Lin Yi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Crisis averted. Mr. Chen stepped forward. Shaolin, you're getting married. Wow, I don't know what kind of gift to get you. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mr. Chen, I was just telling them a white lie. Don't take it seriously. Mr. Chen exclaimed, oh. This. It was the only way to make them back off. Lin Yi said helplessly. Mr. Chen said regretfully, Shaolin, you're at that age now. Sure, they both have their quirks, but they're the prettiest girls in the village. They were practically begging to marry you. It's a shame to turn them down. Mr. Chen, don't worry about it. I've got my own plans. How could Mr. Chen know he was basically a monk, and would probably be leaving soon to continue his journey to immortality? Better to nip it in the bud and stop them from thinking about him. For everyone's sake, seeing Lin Yi's firm stance, Mr. Chen said nothing. Truth be told, he'd hoped Lin Yi would marry a local girl so he'd stay in the village, but after seeing Lin Yi's attitude, he knew Lin Yi would leave sooner or later. At some point, Xiao Yue had wandered over to Lin Yi, tugged on his shirt, and said, Brother, will you and Suetsue and Aunt Hohat have little brothers for me in the future? Then I'll have some new playmates. Lin Yi was dumbfounded by Xiao Yue's words and just rubbed her head. What was going on in that little mind of hers? Chapter 78 Spiritual Stone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Yi sat on the bed, cross-legged, examining the storage bag. He cautiously touched the opening with his mind. A wave of relief washed over him. The seal was still intact, unchanged from the last time he probed it. Still, he didn't let his guard down. This time, he carefully watched the thin lines, monitoring his own mental energy as he went. It only took 2 mental probes for the thin threads to break. He chuckled, realizing he'd been too worried. Eagerly, he plunged his consciousness inside. The bag held about a cubic meter of space. Finally, he wouldn't have to lug everything around. It was perfect for carrying things. He'd hated leaving stuff behind because it was too much to carry, but now he could take it all. The bag wasn't very full, maybe a tenth of the space was occupied. There were bottles, jars, jade slips, clothes, and other odds and ends. Now, how to get things out? Thinking of the purple sun sword, Lin Yi wondered if he could summon items from the bag with his mind. Focusing on a bottle, he pictured it in his hand. It appeared instantly. It worked. He pulled out the other items one by one, creating a pile on the bed. Then, thinking about the pile disappearing, he willed them back into the storage bag. He checked, they were all there. He was thrilled. The storage bag was so convenient. This was the world of cultivation, where such things were possible. He looked forward to the cultivation world even more. It was time to sort through everything. First, he went through the clothes. They looked a lot like the ones senior brother Fong wore, which made him think this bag probably belonged to him. The other 2 bags, he had no idea who they belonged to previously. Based on the clothes, he figured out the storage bag came from senior brother Fong. After dealing with the useless clothes, Lin Yi turned his attention to the bottles and jars. As a pharmacist, he hoped they contained elixirs. He summoned a small, beautifully patterned bottle. Admiring its delicate design, he opened it. Inside was a flat, bumpy, rough-looking pellet. Anyone else would have thrown it away, but Lin Yi examined it closely, pinching it and sniffing. It definitely smelled like an elixir, but it was of incredibly poor quality. If he'd made this, he would have tossed it. Still, he kept it, unable to identify it or its purpose. He decided to store it, hoping he might learn something about it in the cultivation world. He carefully sealed the bottle and set it aside. He summoned another bottle, much larger than the first. Maybe it contained a lot of medicine. He eagerly opened it, and a powerful surge of spiritual energy hit him. He took a deep breath, and every cell in his body seemed to vibrate, invigorated as if he'd taken a massive tonic. Compared to what he'd absorbed before, this spiritual energy was on another level. With this, his cultivation would advance so much faster. Coming back to his senses, he saw several irregular, stone-like objects in the bottle, all about the same size. Wisps of spiritual energy emanated from them. Holding one in his hand, he felt a surge of pure energy. How could a stone have energy, and so potent? He didn't know what they were called. For now, he'd call them spirit stones. If he learned their real name in the cultivation world, he could always change it. Unbeknownst to him, he'd guessed correctly. Cultivators in that world did indeed call them spirit stones. Holding the stone, Lin Yi instinctively began the Wu Wei Ju, his chi-level technique. The spiritual energy from the stone rushed into his meridians. They instantly felt wider and stronger, but the feeling only lasted a moment. The meridians couldn't handle the influx. Panicked, Lin Yi focused on controlling the flow, carefully guiding the energy through his channels, circulating it before merging it into his dantian. The dry dantian filled rapidly. At this rate, it could be fully replenished quickly. Xiang's sword seemed happy at the arrival of the energy, swirling around in the dantian. Lin Yi repeated the process, drawing the spiritual energy from the stone into his meridians and finally into his dantian, forgetting all about sorting the bag's contents. Some time later, the spiritual energy completed a cycle and merged into his dantian. He tried to draw more energy from the stone, but nothing happened. He woke from his practice. Opening his eyes, he looked at the stone in his hand. It was just a plain rock, devoid of any spiritual energy, so, spirit stones had limited energy. He supposed that made sense, otherwise, they'd be useless. He tossed the stone aside and focused on his dantian, finding it now 4 levels full. Another stone should fill it completely. Less than half an hour of practice, and he'd filled 4 levels. He couldn't have imagined this before. So many nights meditating, and he'd barely accumulated any spiritual energy. He couldn't stay in the mortal world, it was hindering his progress. He decided to spend a few more days arranging things, then set out again to find a path to the cultivation world. He stopped practicing, sealed the bottle, and returned to the storage bag, examining each item in turn. The remaining bottles didn't contain spirit stones, and only 2 held elixirs. The rest were medicinal liquids, mostly for healing injuries. After sorting the bottles, Lin Yi picked up the jade slip. Chapter 79 Heaven Defying Pill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Grabbing a jade slip, I figured I'd have to use my spiritual sense to check it out. Diving in, I found it was like a medicine refiner's diary, full of his past experiences making elixirs. I was definitely interested. Since learning to refine medicine, I'd been figuring things out on my own. Seeing how another alchemist did things could really help me level up my own skills. This slip was packed with info. I took my time, and eventually, I read about how this refiner stumbled upon another jade slip. This one described an incredible elixir, so amazing, the guy who invented it called it the heaven-defying elixir, because nothing else seemed worthy. The inventor died unexpectedly in some secret area, so the elixir never made it into the world. This elixir did one thing: it let you trade lifespan for a temporary power boost. The more life you burned, the bigger the boost. When you're out adventuring, you face death all the time. Being able to instantly power up could be the difference between life and death. And when you're staring death in the face, who cares about shaving off a few years? The refiner who found the slip was stoked when he saw what the elixir could do. Imagine refining this stuff and selling it. He'd be famous, a revered pill master. The more he thought about it, the more excited he got. He was ready to start brewing and bask in the glory, but then he saw the ingredients. A lot of them were almost impossible to find. Still, he didn't give up. The rest of the slip detailed his hunt for those ingredients. He got so obsessed he nearly died a few times trying to collect them. After centuries of searching, he finally had everything. He picked a remote spot, hid away, and started refining, full of hope. But in the end, he only produced a half-finished product. He was crushed. He'd wasted all those years on this one elixir, neglecting his own cultivation. His lifespan was running short, and this blow was too much. He coughed up blood and died. Reading this guy's story, I felt bad for him, but it also reminded me that cultivation comes first. Everything else is just a tool. If you level up your cultivation, your lifespan naturally increases, giving you more time to do everything else. But even though I felt bad for him, he wasn't exactly a good guy. He was just trying to cash in on someone else's hard work. Thinking about senior brother Fong, everything clicked. He must have swallowed that half-finished elixir, which drained his lifespan. He was young, but he looked ancient when he died. Reading about this refiner's experiences also gave me some ideas. I wanted to test them out, but first, I wanted to find the formula for that heaven-defying elixir. I grabbed the next slip. Some of them had martial arts techniques, but they were pretty basic and didn't interest me. There was one footwork technique that caught my eye, but I wanted to find the elixir formula first. I'd come back to it later. Finally, I found the formula in one of the slips. When I saw the ingredients, I was blown away. Thousands of ingredients, including over 210 key ones. I barely recognized any of them, and the requirements were super strict. The original creator said you could substitute some of the minor ingredients, but the key ingredients had to be exact, and the age had to be right. At the end of the elixir description, I saw that the creator was called Masterlingsi. Could it be a female alchemist? Whether it was a guy or a girl, anyone who could create that elixir was a true master. Considering my current level, I couldn't refine it even if I had all the ingredients. I carefully put the slip away. I might not be able to refine it now, but I was confident I'd level up my skills eventually. As for the ingredients, I'd keep an eye out for them. If I collected them slowly, I might have them all someday. After that, all that was left were some weapons and junk. I already had the Xiang sword, and these weapons were nowhere near as good, so I tossed them aside. Among the junk, I found a token with Tianfeng sword sect engraved on it. That must have been the sect of Senior Brother Fong and Chu Miaoyin. Overall, it was a huge haul. Not only did I solve my spiritual energy problem, but I also got a refiner's experience and that super valuable elixir formula. All this was supposed to belong to Senior Brother Fong, but now it was mine. Looking at Chao Du's storage bag, I was excited to see what goodies were inside, but I couldn't open it tonight. Disappointed, I put everything back on the bed. I picked up the jade slip with the footwork technique. It was a chi-level technique called the wind step. Once mastered, you'd be as fast and unpredictable as the wind, giving you a big advantage in battle. My goal was to get it to at least a basic level, so it could replace my current footwork. I spent an hour slowly studying the meaning of each word. Once I understood it and had a basic grasp, I put the slip away. It was late, and I couldn't start practicing right away. I took out Chao Du's storage bag and started weakening the seal bit by bit. By the time my spiritual sense was exhausted, it still wasn't open, but it was close. Maybe next time. I pulled out a spiritual stone from the bottle and started meditating. Hey, that roasted chicken wasn't enough. Can we roast the rest? Xiao Yuer looked at me expectantly, pointing at the other roasted pheasants. I asked her, Xiao Yuer, would you rather eat pheasant every day, or eat them all today and never have them again? That she replied without thinking, of course, I want to eat pheasant every day. But what does that have to do with those chickens? That I said, it matters a lot. There are fewer and fewer pheasants on the mountain. If we eat these, there won't be any left. If we keep these, the pheasants can lay eggs, and the eggs can hatch into chicks. Then the chicks can grow up and lay eggs themselves. That way, you can have pheasants to eat every day. The little girl tilted her head and thought for a moment. Oh, I guess so. But I want to eat it now. What should I do? Chapter 80 Epiphany. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the little girl's eager eyes, Lin Yi said, okay, let's roast one more, but this is absolutely the last one. We need to save the rest. Got it. Hearing that, the little girl nodded happily, promising, last one, promise. Lin Yi had caught about a dozen pheasants earlier that day. He'd stumbled upon a nest and figured he could raise them, so they wouldn't be without chicken after he left. He tried putting one in his storage bag to see if it would work. Unfortunately, the pheasant died instantly. Turns out, you can't store live animals that way. Xiao Yuer, wanna learn how to roast chicken? Xiao Yuer blinked, excited. Okay. Lin Yi cut a piece of meat from a cooked pheasant. Then, setting up two small grills, he taught Xiao Yuer as they cooked. Xiao Yuer carefully grilled her own piece, imitating him, all excitement and anticipation. When the meat was done, Xiao Yuer's little face was covered in soot. which looked hilarious on her cute face. The barbecue in her hand was a mess, probably inedible, but Xiao Yue was thrilled. "Brother, I can barbecue too." She took a big bite, chewed, and then immediately spit it out. Blech. Blech. Xiao Yue looked at Lin Yi, dejected. "Brother, Xiao Yue's roast is awful. I'm so useless." Lin Yi tore off a piece of his chicken and handed it to her. "Hey, don't be discouraged. My first barbecue was even worse than that, but I didn't give up. Now I can cook delicious food. It just takes practice, so you just need to try a few more times." Xiao Yue took the chicken and ate it with gusto, nodding seriously. "I'll cook it as good as you do." Lin Yi returned to the Hugong Mountains. As soon as the beasts saw him, they scattered in every direction like he was the plague. This was a common occurrence. He'd been coming to the Hugong Mountains regularly, treating it like his own backyard. When he was bored, he'd tease the wild animals. They'd get furious every time but couldn't do anything about it. Now, the beasts reacted as if they were seeing the Grim Reaper. Anyone would think Lin Yi was the real beast. Lin Yi went to the cliff where he'd jumped off last time. There was a large, flat area there. He planned to practice the wind step, using the location to his advantage. He went through the footwork instructions over and over, but couldn't quite grasp it. Time passed without any progress. Lin Yi took out the jade slip and checked it closely. Everything was correct, so what was the issue? He pondered for a long time but couldn't figure it out. More practice wasn't going to help. Walking to the edge of the cliff, he stood quietly, thinking. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across his face, giving him a chill, and then it clicked. The wind step was all about the wind. You couldn't define the wind, but its characteristics were clear: invisible, erratic, directionless, traceless, unbound, completely free. Seizing that insight, Lin Yi began to practice, imitating the wind, unconstrained, free-flowing. Gradually, his figure appeared on the left, then strolled in front, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. He lost track of time, but when he stopped, he'd finally mastered the wind step. He'd made decent progress before, but once he had that epiphany, he didn't just learn the technique, he took it to a whole new level. What really thrilled him was that not only had he mastered the great wind step, but his understanding was unique. He truly grasped its essence. Other people's great wind step couldn't compare. Lin Yi figured that even if they reached perfection, it'd be hard to match him. Hard work is essential, but enlightenment can be even more critical. However, Lin Yi also knew that enlightenment was about luck. If you didn't get that spark, you might never have the opportunity. So, you still had to work hard and stay grounded. Lin Yi knew that pushing himself harder wouldn't get him to perfection, so he wanted to solidify what he'd already achieved. He continued to practice the wind step. Even though it was just a chi-level skill, it was incomparable to ordinary footwork. The speed alone was vastly superior, not to mention the wind step's erratic, ethereal movement. If he faced Chu Miaoyin again, he could dominate her with his footwork alone and wouldn't be in such a difficult position. Thinking of Chu Miaoyin, Lin Yi gradually stopped. She'd probably returned to her sect by now, and that vengeful woman was probably plotting her revenge. Just look at what happened to Cao. The world of immortality was vast, and it was unlikely he'd run into her. But if she came back to the Hugong Mountains, even if she were alone and injured, Lin Yi couldn't withstand her when she recovered. Plus, she liked to find allies. The ones she found this time would be even more powerful, most likely. Realizing this, Lin Yi knew he couldn't stay in the Hugong Mountains any longer. It was time to leave, or he might bring trouble to Mr. Chen and Xiao Yue. Given Chu Miaoyin's injuries, she shouldn't recover so quickly. But there were miracle cures in the world of immortality. Thinking of this, Lin Yi used the wind step. A series of his afterimages appeared in the air, blurring the line between what was real and what wasn't. Then, he disappeared into the distance. "Big brother, eat up." Xiao Yue held up the barbecue to Lin Yi, waiting for his reaction. Lin Yi glanced at it. Another pheasant had disappeared while he was practicing. This little girl probably hadn't killed it herself, she wasn't brave enough. But she was definitely involved. She must have been begging old man Chen to help her. The chicken wasn't exactly well roasted. Lin Yi took it from her, took a bite, and exclaimed, "This tastes great." He turned to her. "Xiao Yuer, who made this? It's so delicious." Xiao Yuer said, a bit unhappily, "Brother, it's from the cute and smart Xiao Yuer, of course. Can't you even tell?" "You're so silly," Lin Yi feigned surprise. "Xiao Yuer is really amazing. She can make such delicious barbecue so quickly. She's way better than her big brother." Xiao Yuer looked a little embarrassed. She carefully said, "Brother, I accidentally killed another pheasant. I promised it would be the last one. Big brother's not mad, right?" Then she lowered her head, waiting for Lin Yi's punishment.